Hi everyone, it's Miss Mary from Skokie Public Library, back with another Rise and Shine story time. And as you know, if you've been coming to our videos, we have something kind of special at Rise and Shine Storytime. We have a magic box. And we always look at this magic box at the very beginning of story time, and inside the box is what we're going to be reading about today. So I would like to get right to our magic box right now because it seems to be making kind of a funny noise. And I'm wondering if maybe you can figure out from the noise it's making what might be in our box. Can you listen? Can you hear that? What do you think it could be? Maybe a fly got stuck in the box or something? Almost sounds like maybe a fan or, I don't know, some kind of a electric toy? What do you think? Well, let's look and see. Oh, I see what's in here. And now this makes perfect sense. Look who was in our box. It's a bee. Hello, Miss Bee. I bet you're busy right now during the summer. Very, huh? Yeah. Well, I'm really happy to talk about bees today because bees are some of my very favorite animals. You know, the first thing that people learn about bees is that they sting, and that when they sting you, it can hurt. And that is a problem because bees get kind of a bad reputation then. If the only thing that you know about bees is that they can sting you, you might think that you need to run away from them or be afraid of them or something like that. But actually, there's a lot more to know about bees. And I think that we should talk about them today a little bit. I bet you know that bees live in something called a hive, and that in a beehive, there are lots and lots of bees. And the bees take care of the hive, and they take care of each other, and they raise babies, and they make honey sometimes. And also, some bees, called worker bees, fly out of the hive and go and look for food. And the very best kind of food for a bee is from a flower. Now, bees do some wonderful things for us while they're looking for food. In fact, I have a flower here. Let's see if we can get our bee to demonstrate. Oh, you're excited, huh, about this flower? Yeah? Well, a bee will drink nectar from a flower, and nectar is kind of a sweet syrup, and the bee will take that back to the hive and make honey out of it. But the other wonderful thing that bees do is they crawl around on flowers. And when they do that, they pick up some powder from the flowers called pollen. Well, pollen is really important to flowers. Flowers can't make seeds or fruit unless they share pollen with other flowers. And bees are wonderful at picking up some pollen, moving to another flower, and dropping off some pollen. So bees really help flowers share pollen. And that's wonderful for us because then we get wonderful fruits like blueberries, strawberries, apples, peaches, all kinds of wonderful stuff. So thank you, Miss Bee. Okay. So let's read a story about bees today. This is a story that I really, really love. It's called Bees, Bees. And it's by Katherine Pryor, illustrated by Ellie Peterson, and I'm reading it today with the permission of Schiffer Books. Beatrix heard a humming as she walked through the park on her way home from school. She followed the sound to a hollow oak tree. A cloud of wild bumblebees flew in and out of the hidden beehive like it was the world's busiest airport. Let's see if we can see a picture of the tree. Oh, look at all the bees. Bee kept closer. The bees flew zigzags and crazy eights. They hovered and they dove. They zipped out fast, but flew home slowly, their tiny bodies weighed down with pollen and nectar. Sometimes I think of bees going to get pollen and nectar in the same way that we go to the grocery store to get food and then bring it home. Bee visited the hive every day. She watched the bees flit from flower to flower, buzzing with happiness as they collected food for their families. And here you get a nice picture of what's in the hive. All these little rooms where they raise babies and make honey. Then, one day, the tree was silent. A lonely butterfly circled the oak tree, looking for its friends. Its friends were gone. Wow, wonder what happened. The next day, at school, Bee told her teacher what had happened. "Where did my bees go?" she asked. "I don't know," her teacher sighed. "Sometimes bees just disappear." Bee didn't like that one bit. How could a whole hive disappear? She looks kind of sad, doesn't she? The park was quiet as she walked home. Bee looked toward the oak tree, but even the butterfly was gone. Then Bee noticed something else. The flowers around the oak tree had been cut down. Beatrix knew that bees like flowers. It's how they get all of their food. The next time Bee's class went to the library, Bee rushed for the librarian. "What types of flowers do bees eat?" "I don't know," the librarian said. "Let's find out." She's doing a little research on bees. Bee read everything she could about bees. She learned that they like to eat pollen and take nectar from lots of different flowers, and that they needed lots of open space to find them. Bee also learned that bees are a type of pollinator, which means that they carry pollen from flower to flower. Without bees, blueberry, raspberry, and pumpkin plants would not be able to turn their flowers into fruit. There would be no more apples or almonds or avocados. Without bees, some of Beatrix's favorite foods would disappear. Bee began to make a plan. In the early wet days of spring, Bee planted wildflower seeds around the base of her tree. She planted mint and clover and sunflowers. The seedlings began to sprout. The flowers began to bloom. That's exciting. But the tree stayed silent. Bee did her science project on bees. She handed out wildflower seeds to everyone at school and asked them to plant them to help feed the bees. All over the neighborhood, the seeds sprouted. Their flowers bloomed. You can see them all over the neighborhood. Still, the tree was silent. Beatrix began to lose hope. She sat by her tree and cried sad tears at the thought of losing all her bees forever. Then she heard it. A single bumblebee buzzed past, landing on one of the sunflowers. She saw another and another. Bees flew out of a nest in the ground near the hollow oak tree. Look at all the beautiful flowers they have now. They hovered and dove. They flew zigzags and crazy eights. They zipped out to find pollen and nectar and flew home slow and fat to feed their family. Bees were back. Isn't that a wonderful story? I think we talked last time about planting flowers and how when you plant flowers in a place where there haven't been any flowers, lots of animals come. And bees are one of the first animals to come because they need flowers to live. Now, if you liked learning about bees and you'd like to read a little bit more about them, we have some wonderful books at Skokie Public Library all about bees. There is a book called The Thing About Bees by Shabazz Larkin, and that's a book about how important bees are for the foods that we eat. And the author, Shabazz Larkin, says that he used to be afraid of bees until he learned more about them. There's also some good advice about not getting stung by a bee, too. Bees in the City by Andrea Cheng is about how we can help bees even if we live in apartment buildings where not a lot of flowers grow. Buzzing Bees by Melissa Higgins tells you all about the many different kinds of bees there are. Do you know that in our continent, North America, there are 4,000 kinds of bees? There are tiny little bees that you can hardly see and great big carpenter bees that make their hives in trees by eating some of the wood of the trees, all kinds. And it's great to learn how many kinds there are. There are even some kind that don't have any stingers. Honeybees by Jill Esbaum is a great up-close look at bees. It has a lot of wonderful photos of bees in their hives and eating from flowers and getting pollen all over themselves. So it's a great way to learn up close about bees. Kaia and the Bees by Maribeth Boelts is a wonderful book about a girl whose dad is a beekeeper and he loves his bees, but Kaia is not so sure. Takes her a little bit of time to get used to the bees. And Please Please the Bees by Gerald Kelley is a really fun book about a beekeeper bear who is not taking good enough care of his bees until the bees tell him what he needs to do. So I hope you'll enjoy all those books and come to the library and see us and we'll talk about bees. And now before we go, I'd just like to do a little bee poem, which is kind of fun. And it goes like this. You're going to make your hand into a beehive. It goes like this. Here is the beehive. Where are the bees? Hidden away where nobody sees. Watch, and you'll see them come out of the hive. Now you turn your hand over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bzzz. And that's a funny poem that you can buzz at your grown-up. I will see you next time, and we will do more stories together. And in the meantime, go out and look for some bees. They're really fun to watch. Bye.